right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in or for staying with us here on SABC2 and SABC News' Channel 404. All right, let's get into the front pages of our newspapers, the ones we've got available to us this morning, the Business Day. So we talk to the Business Day, which its headline says, ANC bombs on bank, adding to the Rand's woes. And this is the story we spoke about earlier, all with regard to the trending topics. ANC Secretary General says party will also explore quantitative easing to deal with debt on a day marred by news that the economy had its biggest contraction since the depths of the global financial crisis. ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule dropped economic bombs of his own, saying it would expand the mandate of the Reserve Bank and explore the use of quantitative easing to deal with government's debt. Of course, this was then, took up a big Twitter storm, and our Finance Minister Tito Mboweni saying, this is not going to happen, as well as Enoch Godongwana issuing a statement of his own, contradicting Magashule and saying that consideration of quantitative easing was not on the ANC agenda and that there was no decision by the ANC to expand the mandate of the central bank. So this conversation is nowhere from over. All right, then there is the new ABSA CEO. Will only start in 2020. ABSA is going to be without a permanent CEO to steer the ship until 2020, leaving South Africa's third largest bank by market value vulnerable in an increasingly competitive environment. So that's that little story there on the right-hand side of the newspaper, that being on the front page of the Business Day. Alex Forbes earnings to drop. Country's largest pension fund administrator, Alexander Forbes, says it expects its earnings per share to drop from continuing operations about a third when it reports its results for the year ending March. And then finally, the one that's jumping out here is petrol price rises on carbon tax. The petrol went up, you know this, by 9 cents at midnight last night, while both grades of diesel rose 33 cents a litre. And this increase follows the introduction of the carbon tax levy, which Finance Minister Tito Mboweni announced during the budget. That took me by surprise. I don't know about you, but I wasn't expecting that to go up. And yes, it has gone up, but now you know why. It was that carbon tax increase. Okay, next newspaper is it's the Citizen. Okay, let's have a look at the Citizen's front page there. And their big headline, Eskom drags us down. Load shedding by the power utility had a direct bearing on the mining and manufacturing industries, the largest negative contributors to the country's growth. That's according to a leading economist. You'll remember that after the numbers came out, and not a nice picture at all of our GDP, down over 3%, and that was not expected at all. SA must deliver. Well, we hope so, because it's not looking good so far. The Proteas and the World Cup and staying out, and so none of us are happy right now with what's happening with the Proteas, but hopefully things will turn around for them today. And then finally, we look at the front page of the Sowetan. That's the one that we've got to wrap things up. First one, double tragedy for student nurses. Gosh, get your details there on page 7. And then give dad hip up or else. One of those tongue twisters. So the story is doctor refuses to fetch his elderly father after he'd been discharged, and hospital disputes 73-year-old was on an operation waiting list for 10 years. So there's a story there to have a look at as well. And then there's a story of DJ Fresh there in trouble over swear words. Okay, so you can read the story there. DJ Fresh has been hauled to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission for his alleged foul mouth. All right, so you can read that story as well. Those are your newspapers for this morning, and that's where we'll leave them. Now, let's move on to issues here in studio, and we have an interview with the ANC Youth League, and let's talk to why.